Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Season 2, True Grit, TheRKShow, and one of our first guests joining us this evening from India is Satish Pai. Satish is an old friend, old colleague, a brother of mine, and we bring Satish here because his story is a unique story. A story of indeed true grit, determination, fighting against adversity, climbing over odds, and making things happen where things looked impossible. With a warm welcome, Satish Pai, welcome to True Grit, TheRKShow. Over to you.
Thanks, Rajat. So happy to be here. We've been talking about this for a while now. Finally happening, sitting right here on the camera. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Satish Pai is known to me, and often, when we were in college, I used to always wonder where our future was going to take us. Where would life take us? And here we are almost 35 years later. And today, why we have Satish on the show, as I mentioned, is because of the very unique and very varied experience that he's had. This individual, although he came out of college with me, is an individual who has worked in Afghanistan, who's worked in Myanmar, who's worked in conflict zones. And for very many of us who only heard about stories like what one saw in the Kabul Express, which had, if I'm not mistaken, Arshad Warsi, and had folks like, if I'm not mistaken, the gentleman was John Abraham in that movie. And you had something very interesting to do with that movie as well at one point in time. So we are going to talk to an individual who has got memories of the real situation on the ground in Kabul, Afghanistan, in Kandahar, in Hemland, and all those provinces, as well as thereafter in Myanmar, or Burma as it is known. He's worked closely with folks who have who've seen conflict up close and personal. But before I get to all of that, Satish, what was childhood like? I mean, you grew up in an ordinary middle-class family, parents, sisters, and you being the youngest. Tell us about your early life. How was that?
Typical Indian life to begin with. I was born in Karnataka, Bellary. I grew up there for about a month before we moved to Delhi. And so ever since, Delhi's been my place. This is what I call home.
How did hotel management even happen? I mean, what it really led to you?
That was actually a chance. I was born to a family of very, very intelligent, smart daughters. So I was always the black sheep of the family. I had a point to prove. Dad wanted me to be an engineer always. Mom wanted me to be a doctor. Eventually, I became a hotelier just out of a toss of a coin. I wanted to be in the forces, and apparently what happened was that both my entrance exams happened in Old Delhi area, same area, different schools, and I hadn't studied for either. Right? I just tossed the coin. I said, heads, it's hotel management, tails is NDA, and damn, here I am. So you can guess what happened.
Well, there is a common theme amongst all the friends that we've met, who've kind of, made it big in their own ways coming out of hotel management, but their start was exactly the same. Doing doctor or lawyer, and more often than not, doctor or lawyer, engineer, where the parents wanted it, or one side of the parents did want that, but the toss of the coin, and there you were. But life took you into very interesting positions after that. So, Satish, your experience with conflict zones actually started pretty early in Baghdad itself. And as you mentioned, the first Gulf War, the Second World Gulf War. Any kind of vivid memories coming out of that? Because I want to talk about the human side of it with you.
Lots and lots of it. I've seen Baghdad city as one of the most wonderful places I've been to as a child, even though I'd already been through, transiting through Dubai, staying on in Dubai for a couple of days, seeing Dubai, but then getting on to Baghdad city was a total different experience. Baghdad city was very, very modern. I remember then and now, we have. I remember Tigris River then, the river cruises on the Tigris River, and see the videos now. I'm like, it disgusts you. What it's become now. Very, very progressive place where in the 70s we would have, delivered garbage bags for the month free of cost by the government. There was I'm like, there was nothing. I mean, people used to look up to Saddam Hussein, and they were scared of him as well. He used to run the place with an iron fist. I met Saddam Hussein twice or thrice myself.
Wow. And
Yeah,
that was because
because
of ads posting in Baghdad
that's
and
correct. That's correct.
okay.
That was a senior official with his government making dams and bridges. So for individual events and all, dad was always invited. But for family events like anniversaries and birthdays and all that, the family was invited. So I got around to meeting this dynamic guy who is known to the world as Saddam Hussein. You know, very handsome and dynamic guy. So that's the kind of a memory I have. You know, a safe place for everyone. Safe as hell. You could go out, leave your doors unlocked for like a month, come back, and nothing would go missing. You know,
Wow.
that was.
So you're painting the picture of a Baghdad or Iraq, which was beautifully managed. The river Tigris, which flowed right through Baghdad itself, a clean waterway with cruises and what have you, and more. Okay, wow, wow.
Absolutely. Supermarkets where you could get alcohol if you were a non-Muslim and non-Iraqi, and it was wonderful. Growing up, that was the best experience I had. You know, and then of course the conflicts and all started, and that's where the thrill in me ignited. That's I guess
So were
that's
you
where.
around when the Kuwait conflict happened? Because there was a movie made in India, if I'm not mistaken, with Akshay Kumar, where there
Yes,
was a whole, repatriation of Indian
yes, yes.
nationals from Kuwait at that point in time. You had
No,
nothing.
I wasn't. I was at the time when this conflict happened. Both these conflicts with Iran happened. Kuwait was actually an ally. So at the end of our tenure there, when we decided to call it off and go back home instead of risking our lives, it was about I think 83 or some time when we had to be driven across because all the flights were suspended. All the aircrafts were moved somewhere else. So we had to be driven all the way from Baghdad city to Kuwait border and then from there to Kuwait city. We stayed on for, I guess, 24 hours where the Indian government made us wait for a evacuation aircraft, Indian Airlines, so to get the passengers who were from Baghdad city. So I remember that part about the whole war, but nothing about the Iraq-Kuwait war, as in not personally.
Understood. So, Satish, you're going to, and we've talked about it during our times in college and thereafter as well, because you bring a different perspective to what the world knows only because you were there, and you were there during the conflict or the challenges of Iran and Iraq. You were there
Right,
in Afghanistan during the conflict in Afghanistan
right,
recently after 9/11, and you were there in Myanmar at a very
right.
unique period. And where you come in is not the political side of it, Satish. You come in from the
No,
human side of it. You come in
absolutely,
from the human aspect of it, and
absolutely.
that's exactly what I wanted to explore with you. But before we got there, the unique part of the journey that you've had, we both did hotel management. I went my way, but we stayed in touch. You went in your own direction. But where did life take you right after 1991 when we came out of college? What was that journey over the next few years? I give us a glimpse of that journey.
Well, you know how it started off. I joined the quality chain hotel, which is the Choice Hotels International now. I was posted in Goa. I had a almost fatal accident. I broke almost all bones, and then I had to come back, stay home, and then I started my life all over again. And then went back into the five-star hotel industry at a lower level, which is fine. Worked my way up, and eventually clawed back into the industry, hardcore F&B, and the drive to excel and the drive to succeed put me in banqueting because banqueting seems to be the place where you grow the fastest because it takes a toll actually, and it has. And I did about 7, 8 years, 10 years of banqueting, overall hotel experience, and complete hardcore banqueting experience, and then I moved on to commercial catering. I joined Sodexo India, and I was instrumental in opening the food and beverage operations at the Kota House with the Indian Navy. And from there on, I got an offer from an American company who was in Afghanistan already. I think it was 2003, 4 sometime. And that was because a friend of mine was employed there in the electricals department. We'd come back home on vacation. They were looking for people.
So I'm going to hold you there.
So,
Unique and very interesting point. You come out, you join Choice Hotels Quality as a management trainee. Again, a very interesting story that whoever I've met with or spoken with, from our friend circle, there seems to be a bit of a disaster of sorts from a physical standpoint, an accident, broken bones. You seem to have
Yes.
had it. Sanjay Shande seems to have had it. I don't know if we were blessed in
We,
that particular way. I had my own episode with it in Jaipur in the early, part of my career as well before I left India. I don't know if we were blessed in a particular manner, but all of those broken bones did lead to a very interesting future. And there you were. You started off with your catering outfit with Sodexo and Kota House, which of course is the naval officers' mess in Delhi. And that's
right.
where you get introduced after that with a person who is dealing with catering services for the US Army and the coalition in Afghanistan. Is that an appropriate way to put it?
Not exactly. I would not say so. I would say that we started off catering to the UNAMA at Kabul, United Nations Assistance Mission for Afghanistan. And then, of course, we had these camps across Afghanistan catering to the Afghan army camps that my company's contractors were making. So that's how I got into this business. And of course, that is because of my expertise into commercial catering, as in not, I would say,
The Sodexo side of it, the Sodexo
Yeah,
side of it,
yeah.
industrial catering, as we call it, large scale kitchens, not in a formal area.
Absolutely. Large scale, multi kitchen kind of a things, because my size, we cater to three different kind of people. We cater, of course, to the expats. There was a different kitchen, different menu, different pricing, everything else. Then there was another kitchen for the managers and all those. And then there was a kitchen for the TCNs, the third country nationals, as they were called.
So here's where you actually left family. I suppose you were married, because I know you were. I suppose you were already a father or getting to be a father. And
No. I was already a father to two young boys. And all thanks to my wife. They are old enough now. One is 28, one is 26, and I'm 50, but I have a 4-year-old granddaughter.
You are a grandfather. You're probably
Exactly.
amongst the youngest in our batch to be officially a grandfather right now. So first and foremost, congratulations, as they say.
Thank you.
But more
Thank you.
importantly, what a big decision in the year 2002, 2003 to leave family, because I don't think you were able to take your wife. Now we'll get to your wife and
No.
children a little later, because they played a very important part in your life. And I know of things that mean so much to you, Satish, and we'll come to that later. But leaving your family and getting to Afghanistan, how easy was that decision? Was it like, all right, family, here I am, good to see you. I'm heading out for a few months to Kabul. And was that like what kind of an experience was saying bye-bye to go to a conflict zone?
See, it works both ways. As in, my wife has always been a true pillar of support. Without her, I would have been nowhere, zero. Because I personally took this thing as a challenge. Because even as my wife tells me that I was, since very young, I've been seeing bullets and rockets flying all over and bombs coming in and blackouts in Baghdad city and all. So I was like kind of used to it psychologically, not intentionally. And I used to see Afghanistan thing as a challenge, as a thrill. I never thought of it as that what would happen if something would happen to me. And my wife, my parents, they cautioned me. Dad, having been in Afghanistan in the good old days, he had memories of those days, but not now. It's like
He had memories of the time when when Afghanistan and Kabul was beautiful.
That pubs, clubs, discotheque, Dad used to send dry fruits by mail, regular mail.
Right.
Where you have to run them through customs now. Can you believe that? I mean, so he had those experiences, and that also taught me a lot. His experiences there have taught me a lot. Anyway, so without my wife's support, she was crazy looking for me where I was, because Afghanistan then had hardly any network connection, mobile connection, except in Kabul. And I was traveling all over the country.
So 2003, you land up, and in 2005 or 6, this movie Kabul Express gets made. Now it has explored a little bit of the human factor, on the basis of the travels that folks like Arshad Warsi and John Abraham did. You've lived with the people, you've lived with the local Afghan population. I'm sure you also had some brushes with the infamous Taliban, as they say, in your own way. I mean, we only see and hear about whatever it is through newspapers and TV and what have you. but you've had a personal experience. Describe to us what is your, feeling about the people in that zone, that area.
I'll be very honest with you. There are only two kind of people in Afghanistan. They're either super rich or super poor. Whatever reason, I won't really like to commit. Everybody knows. But then there are people who are, zooming around in the Mercedes and the big time SUVs and stuff. And there are people walking barefoot on the snow in blizzards. So I've seen both sides. These people are simple to the point of being stupid, and eventually they are the ones who get hurt. The big ones have already fled. The big ones who unfortunately got stuck behind now are on phone with me every second, third day to try and help me to call them over to India. They want to set up business, but they can't take out their money. It's all in cash. It's terrible, and I really can't do anything to help them. I really can't.
What was the kind of people? Were they welcoming? Were they open? Were they loving, caring? You were an Indian. Of course, India and Afghanistan has a very old
Yes.
relationship right from historical times. But
But
what was
again,
your experience?
that's overrated. That's overrated. Afghanistan, again, you can cut it in two parts. The half, which is Kabul and north, Mazar-e-Sharif, Kunduz, even Herat at that time, that was all India friendly. They used to watch Indian movies. They used to be fans of Sunny Deol, the actor. They used to pronounce the name Sunny Deol. It took me a while to understand their language, but they are good. They are good. They really care about Indian nationals and all those things. But the way you travel more towards southern part, Kandahar, Helmand, Lashkargah, all these shady places, I would say, the tide turns over towards the Pakis because a lot of Pakistanis are in Afghanistan. They are in Afghanistan army and police. They are recruited by them, knowing fully well they are Taliban from Pakistan. So that makes it a lot more dangerous for us to cross into the southern areas. But as an Indian national, as a foreign national out there, out in the open, I still had to carry my passport and everything. So every day was a new adventure for me. I've been there, done all that, all that.
What would what was your experience with Kabul Express and the story captured therein, and your angle about it?
See, I ended up watching the movie towards much later in Afghanistan because there the DVDs and all were not that easily available. Then we never had any other OTTs and all those things. But then I met Arshad Vasi and John Abraham after they were shooting, and we were shopping at the common PX for alcohol. When alcohol was allowed, this is before 2007. I would guess, because 2007 they stopped all alcohol in Afghanistan. So we were shopping in the same PX, and these two guys were in the cashier's queue in front of me. So it was nice. We got introduced and stuff. I doubt if they'll remember me, but then it doesn't matter. But then I saw the movie, and for me, it was a nice, entertaining movie, but it was more on the comedy side because I've seen those places, been there, and those are old ruins they've used. Obviously, they're actors, they won't put their life in danger. But then those places are real. Those places are really actually real. And Afghanistan, I must say, it's a beautiful country. Especially towards the north, it's beautiful. It's an entire life, different life. Lush, green, mountains, snow, and all that. So they did not get to that part. They were focused only on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border and the conflict and all those things. But that was exaggerated.
So the country has more to it than what we read in newspapers, what we see in the usual television coverage, as well as in the movies and what have you. Because you see, Afghanistan has been in the focus in movies, etc., right from the Rambo times. If you remember, John Rambo was there, which was Mr. Stallone, the Soviet invasion and all of that. So what you are portraying is a genuineness of the people, a love and care for certain sides.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Oh, yes.
That was Afghanistan. What brought you to Myanmar? That is the other country. How did you land up in Myanmar?
Raja, this is funny. Actually, I tried to go back home multiple times after the first 5, 6, 7 years. But each time I decided I wanted to go home, something good would happen, I would stay back. But eventually, 2014, when the US withdrew, and the bases, I used to be on the bases, off the bases, but I remember specifically being on Kandahar base. And there we started seeing more and more armed Afghan army personnel on the base, on the boardwalk, having an ice cream from DQ. That used to make the Americans nervous, and so did we, because we knew, these people you could never trust. The police and the army, Kabul, yes, you could, but Kandahar, South Afghanistan, with the history of people from the other side of the border coming into Afghanistan, and seeing them armed makes everybody nervous over there. So, and that's when I decided, all of us have to die one day, but I would rather die at my home than go back in a box, because I've seen enough and more boxes go back in Indian Airlines flights with me, and I don't like it. I didn't want to actually, I would not be able to handle it. So that is when I decided to call it quits. And I came back home, and one of my ex-project managers from Afghanistan, my dear, dear, dear friend, Mr. Doug Boyd out of Texas, we worked together for about 7 years in Afghanistan. And then after I left Afghanistan, so did he. And the next job he got was with the OBO, the Overseas Building Organization. So that was they worked with the U.S. Department of State. So I got an option to join the U.S. Department of State, U.S. Embassy American Center Construction Project in Myanmar, in Yangon City. Again, too good an offer to say no. I said yes, and I went there. And the third time I decided to come back home, I got an offer to join this Philippine company called Mega Wide to go to Goa as the head of administration and facilities for the Goa International Airport, the new one.
So you had a very varied and checkered career. Most of it has been in project management, and a combination with catering. So Afghanistan was catering, Myanmar was building construction, Goa was again building and construction. But you're a very emotional guy. For the last 33 years that I've known you, actually 34 in August of this year.
34 and
It'll be 34 in August of this year. I've known you from that. It's almost half a decade, close to it.
Absolutely.
You're an emotional guy. How did you manage these very, unique challenges across conflict zones, across being alone? And I hate to, but I think I should mention it. By the time you got to Goa, you had a very major personal incident in your life.
Absolutely.
The love of your life was no more. And I hate to put it so bluntly, but you were devastated.
Absolutely.
You're an emotional guy. How did you handle that? I'm probing because you're a highly emotional
There's
guy.
been so many ups and downs. See, this one, the last one, sadly happened directly with me. Involving me and my family, and then nowhere else to go. So you had to pick up the pieces yourself. But through life, especially again, I would say because of Afghanistan and stuff, I saw so much shit and so much pain there. I don't know whether it's good or not, but it took me 3 years now, and I've still not recovered from the passing of my wife. But I'm getting there, and it took me almost a similar time to get away from and over Afghanistan. I've had incidents like suicide bomber on the UN car in front of me, and me flying all over my car. And being human, facing this shit for the first time. The first thing I did was, when I got off the car, when I could manage to stop the car somewhere and get off, I threw up. It's the same way. Calamities.
It's a gut wrenching situation, and kind of wrecks you.
I never imagined when I was in India that I would even touch a gun. We never need to, right? But in Afghanistan, I had to keep a licensed weapon and practice. Thankfully, I've never had to use it on anybody. There have been occasions, but God's been great. I've always been saved. I've had numerous occasions. At least 3 kidnapping attempts, 2 suicide attempts on my car. And God knows.
So an emotional guy steeled up. An emotional guy, a guy who's full of heart, because I've known you pretty up close and personal. Your sister happened to be my senior colleague in my first job, and your brother-in-law today is my mentor. I've seen you up close and personal from college. I know you very well. There's a different you when I see you today. There's reflections of your old self, but there is a stronger, steelier guy today than the all hard guy that I knew back in college. I think it's a blend, but life has taught you through knocks as to how to kind of, rise to the challenge. You are the
Yeah.
father of two boys, and you're also a grandfather. How does that
Yes.
role play out, Satish? How's it being a dad of two boys and a granddad of a beautiful, beautiful granddaughter?
Yeah. Dad of two boys is less me than my wife. She's been the dad and mom of both of them. Ever since they were born. Because initially, after they were born, I left Delhi, so we were on our own. And being a F&B guy, I was almost all the time at work. So my kids, from the young age, they never saw much of me. And then eventually, I left for their teens and all that. I was never there. I was here only to spend the money that I was making, spend it on them, spend it on me, and that was life then. But then things take a turn. And then the kids are old enough now. Uh, One is with his girlfriend, the other is married, they're staying away. One is in Noida, one travels to Yangon to be with his family. He's into international agro trading. So we hardly see each other.
That's
But such is life. I'm like, time flies, times change.
How's the granddaughter?
She's cute. I haven't met her for the last 3-4 years because ever since she was born in Delhi. My wife also, before she passed away, she could meet my granddaughter only once.
That hurts.
And he was born in August 2018, and my wife passed away in March 19. Unfortunately, on my younger son's birth date, she passed away on the 16th of March. So it was sad, but then yeah, I plan to go and see her soon. Now that the visas are open, because Myanmar again has been in and out of conflicts. I've seen both the sides of it when I went first, and now it's back to square one. So now things apparently are getting better. They're issuing visas, so maybe soon.
But
Maybe soon.
Yangon, as you've told me and as we have talked, the food is amazing.
Yeah.
The entire environment is pretty amazing with the pagodas and the Buddhist culture.
Oh yeah.
Overall, describe Yangon or describe Rangoon for those who have never seen Rangoon. You've seen Rangoon up close and personal.
Rangoon. Well, Rangoon is a beautiful, bustling city. I went there when it was still the army rule, and that is what probably attracted me to go there and see the challenge there. But then 2015 is when I landed there, and 2016 sometime the democracy came in with Aung San Suu Kyi and stuff. But then life is great over there. I mean, like you come to Delhi, you go to an international restaurant, you go to a French restaurant. Most times, the executive chef would be an Indian, right? Because they train well enough. But in Yangon, because they lack that talent, they have the kind of money. The big guys, they have the money. If you go to say a French restaurant or say a Lebanese restaurant, you'll find a Lebanese chef. He's training the other people, making the place better. So you get the authentic stuff. The food prices are cheap as hell. Alcohol is cheap as hell. So that place is a party goer's paradise. That's where you want to go. If you have money, that's where you want to go. I give it 10 points above Thailand and all those for any kind of fun.
But then what about the people? How are they in terms of nature? You only hear about Myanmar for all the strange reasons, the conflict. You hear about the democracy movement and students getting into a challenge, the ruling party and what have you. But let's leave the politics behind. Let's leave all of that behind. Let's talk about the people. Your
People are
experience with the people.
People are very genuine, very warm, nice to talk to. The main challenge over there is the language. Most of them either do not know English. That becomes a challenge. And then the people who know are not confident enough of speaking. So they feel embarrassed when they have to answer back in English. There are a few who gone up the ladder, they speak very good English, very presentable. But then people hesitate, and that becomes a big barrier. They do want to communicate with you. They want to talk to you about your culture, where you're from, how to get there, and all the way. Me and you are speaking about Rangoon.
Right.
But that language barrier kills them. Otherwise, they're very God-fearing people and nice. It's very pleasant going out to pagodas over there and all that. I've been through the countryside. It's a beautiful country. It's a beautiful country. And very nice, warm people.
Ever thinking of going back? You have extended family there. Do you see yourself going
I
back?
would love to. I would love to have zillions of friends over there, locals, Indian nationals settled over there, Indian nationals working there for 25 years who don't want to leave Myanmar. I do not speak the language. My son does. And It's very tough. That language is
Strangely,
very tough.
Burma plays a very important part even in the Indian history. Subhash Chandra Bose,
Absolutely.
the Burma Front, that was the last place till where the Japanese could make an inroad, and then after that it was the Indian National Army and all of that. And what's the feeling about Indians per se in Burma and Indian nationals from your standpoint?
People hardly talk about those things. The first thing you learn when you get into Myanmar from your friends who settled there. Two things you never speak about over there in public. One, religion. Second, politics.
Beautiful.
Right?
Both
Because
can be
there,
very divisive. Both can be very divisive.
and the monks, Buddhist monks there, they are the rulers, actually. Even the army cannot touch them. The police cannot touch them. Whatever they might do, whatever they want to do, you cannot.
Wow.
I've been to the war cemeteries and over there, the British time and all those, very well maintained, beautiful.
Wow.
But
Did you see remnants of the INA and Indian National Army and none of that?
You don't see that. You don't see that.
You
I
don't
think
get to
the
see that.
Indian part of it, you can say Aurangzeb's mausoleum is there, or somebody. Aurangzeb, who was the last Mughal king?
Bahadur Shah Zafar. Bahadur Shah Zafar
right.
was sent to Rangoon.
Yeah.
Bahadur Shah Zafar was exiled to Rangoon.
Yes,
Wow.
exiled.
Beautiful.
Yes, that's right. That was pretty close to where I used to live. So
Wonderful.
it was there, and that's about it. But you have to visit Myanmar. It's very, very underrated, I would say. As a tourist destination, the beaches you see there are the beaches you'll never. Chong Tha Beach, Nue Song Beach. I mean, like, beautiful, clean. I've never seen cleaner beaches in India, ever. The cleanest I've seen are there, and South Asia. Colombo, Bentota in Sri Lanka.
Right.
The sense of cleanliness, the sense of, tourists are here, they're going to be spending on you. You got to keep your place clean.
Very important.
Very nice. Perfect traffic laws. Perfect traffic laws. Safety for women. I had lady staff in my restaurant. And eventually ended up opening a restaurant. And they used to leave work at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, take a cab, walk back home, no problems.
Wonderful.
Very, very safe.
Wow. So what you see on the ground is fairly much different than what you kind of sometimes get to read in the newspapers and what have
Absolutely. I would say so.
So Satish, you are now in Delhi, and I know you being a good son, looking after mom. She's going through some of her own struggles. You being a great son. How are you managing? What's day like? What's an ordinary Monday to Friday like for you?
See, Rajat, since the wife left, I had to come back and leave even my good job in Goa where I was doing very, very well. But then I had two boys, and boys never know how to manage homes. So I had to come back to manage the household. My profile being good, I never had any doubts that after a few months when I've settled the house, I would not get a job. But that's what happened. It took me about 6 months to put things in place. And then when I started looking out for jobs, Corona happened. So it's been bad. Last 3 years have been bad. It just pulled me down to what I was 20 years back, 25 years back.
It's been a tough situation.
So I've been in and out of opportunities, but that's how it is. Still looking at it,
You're a positive guy. You're a very positive guy, Satish. I guess it's the cycle of time and it's the cycle of life, which kind of goes up and down and brings all these challenges. Satish, as we draw to a close to this conversation, and we'll learn more. What is your view about humans and human beings, having seen humans in different aspects, in stress and conflict and happiness and love, in fun? You've seen a spectrum. Some of us only see a very narrow view of it. You've seen a very wide spectrum. You've seen challenges. You've seen death up close and personal. You've seen, as we call it, strife of a different kind. How do you still look at humanity?
See, everything is good, Rajat. Everything is good. What I've seen across beyond boundaries, different nations, Africa, all these places, it's all. And it's again my personal view. Okay, it's just that I think it is all politically driven, internal politics, international politics, and all that. For that, I would really like to say Pakistanis are not bad people. Person to persons, my staff, in all my years in Afghanistan, I've had one Indian employee, and I've had at least 1,500 Pakistani employees and over 6,000 Afghan employees. Afghans, I would not really like to comment. It depends on their financial status, how they deal with you. But then with Pakistani, it's always been warm. When we used to have India-Pakistan matches, we used to all bundle up in my room because I had a TV connection which showed the match. And it was like cheer for everybody. In jest, yes, the Pakistanis used to, hey, Pakistan, I used to be like, hey, India and all that. But eventually, whoever won, it was a party end of the day. And it was back to work as normal.
Human beings have the same common connections. What divides us is probably political divides and possibly religious.
Political divides within and outside, international things and stuff. So otherwise, we're all the same. We're all the same. We like people.
We like people. We connect.
Absolutely, that's the way it should be. Absolutely. Otherwise, the world's going to end very, very soon.
Yep. Satish, what's the next? What's the remaining part of this year and the next few years looking in your view? What are the plans? What do you think?
No, I'm getting back into the business I had before, into commercial catering in India as well. Because while the wife was there and I had already left for Afghanistan and came back and started this before I went to Myanmar and then to Goa, when the wife passed away, everything came to a stop. Because she was my rock solid support. She was a person, following up on the court cases and the tax filings and everything, and I was clueless. So I'm still picking up on the threads, because she left me all of a sudden. So me and my sons were clueless. So we're still picking up, but then now I'm getting back on my feet. It's taken me time, as I said, but I think I'm getting over it, and I need to catch up with my life. There's still some left, and I want to miss that life.
There's lots left. I see a certificate behind, and I wonder, is that yours or is that Maya's?
No. This one is my banquet manager of the year.
That's what I was thinking. Which one is this one? So this is the FHRAI one, or
this is HNFS?
HNFS.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Where were you working at that point?
Then I was with the Qualities in Chennai, which eventually I moved on from there to the Park Sheraton, and then on to the Hilton, and then it's all history.
But that all has to come back now, and you're, I suppose, working on bringing those great moments of yours together.
But I'd rather bring these moments. These are my certificates of appreciation from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Do you mind taking one of them off and showing us up close and personal, or will that be a challenge?
Mm-hmm. Not at all.
I'd love to see what let people see what were you doing with the. Oh my God! So that is the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Afghanistan Engineer District, 10th of April 2007, and this is to whomsoever it may concern. And this is signed by Larry Ivansky.
Yes.
Wonderful, who was in the Kandahar area. Satish, right. You have led a checkered life, my friend. People talk about James Bond.
One life, I would say. I've enjoyed
in one life. People will not believe it when I say that this all heart, all this bundle of emotion, as we used to know him back then in college, is actually led a life which has been in a conflict zone, which has faced conflict, which has seen challenges up close and personal, but yet remains a wonderful human being, a wonderful friend, a genuine man from the heart, a brother of mine. Satish, I'm so proud that I had the opportunity to welcome you to the True Grit, TheRKShow. I hope now you can see why I was pushing you all this while. Yours is an example of true grit. Yours is an example of having faced adversity, has both personally and professionally. Your accolades and your various recognitions behind you tell a story of your achievements, whereas your heart tells a story of your love and affection. And it's such an amazing combination of both, which I wanted to kind of bring to the world together. Satish, before I part ways today, as we are nearing our end of our show, any parting thoughts from your side? Any wishes? Anything that comes to your mind?
Nothing. I wish my college group all the best, and you guys have been my pillar of support through the years, and especially through the last 3 tough years. And of course, my mom, my family, Maya, and life goes on. I hope things just turn better for all of us. Corona goes away, life comes back to normal for all of us hoteliers, I would say, especially the hardest hit. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Satish. I know it's very hard for you to hold your emotions. I know you're fighting hard. I know you so well. What exterior is hiding a slew of tears behind. But my friend, keep smiling, keep shining. We are with you, and good luck and good wishes for the days ahead. I know you're going to do tremendously well.
Thank you.
Friends, this was Satish Pai. The True Grit Show started off season 2 with him because this is a story of true determination, wanting to fight it out against all odds. I'm so happy Satish could join us. Wishing you all the very best, having a great evening, a great morning, or a wonderful afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Bye for now. We'll catch you on another episode very soon in season 2 of the True Grit, the RK Show.